The key to curating the best event experience for your client is understanding the guest's needs. Let's take a look at the Big Four. Who are your guests? What is the event purpose? What is the event setting? And what is the flow and size? You may notice what is your budget is not one of the Big Four. Contrary to what many people think, budget isn't the most important factor in event planning. We don't sell pricing, we sell an experience, and a successful one at that. Let's take a closer look at understanding the factors that are important.
So, who are your guests? The best way to understand guest needs is to figure out exactly who your guests are, their age, experiences, and ultimately their food and dining preferences. So when trying to identify your group's DNA, it's okay to make some generalizations and do a little profiling. For instance, the demographics of the group's gender makes a difference. A largely female group might want lighter fare, while a male-dominated group might look for heartier options. Your group's profession can give you some clues. An industry event for automotive mechanics might look for something more laid back and include comfort foods, while a pharmaceutical group might be more health conscious. The seniority of your group can make a difference. A group made up of entry-level managers is possibly full of millennials looking for adventure, while a CEO group might look for something a little more traditional and refined. Region can have an influence based on popular foods in the area or ethnic influences. Nationality and religion can also come into play with dietary restrictions and celebrations. The general age of your group should be a consideration too. There are a few generations that make up the current population, and each has its own traits and particular eating habits. Cultural and historical influences like diet trends, economic crisis, and education affect their life experiences and ultimately their dining choice. So, who are your guests, and how exactly are they eating?
Let's start with the youngest and smallest population segment, Generation Z. Born between 1995 and 2012, this generation consists of about 23 million people anywhere between 14 and 23 years old and is rapidly growing. These are heavy technology users, they grew up with it, and they can't remember a time without computers or cell phones. They're internet savvy and mobile reliant. In terms of eating habits, we see a lot of food allergies prevalent in this and other young generations.
Millennials, or Generation Y, represent the largest population segment. The youngest millennials are entering our workforce and becoming guests at our events. This generation of about 83 million people was born between 1977 and 1994, currently making them about 24 to 41 years old. It's a racially and ethnically diverse generation that's also highly educated. They're less brand loyal, very style conscious, and high-tech users. This is a generation that travels and understands globalization. So, what does that mean for their taste buds? Well, they're an extremely adventurous group. They enjoy any opportunity to try whatever's new and trendy, and they're not afraid of exotic foods or unfamiliar ingredients.
Generation X makes up the second largest population segment at about 75 million, and they're also open to a bit of adventurous eating. People of Generation X were born between 1966 and 1976, making them between 42 and 52 years old. This generation is sometimes referred to as the lost generation, as brands have overlooked them for years. But their rising income and consumer mentality have shifted marketing efforts across industries. Generation X is highly educated and known for being good task managers. Though they're not afraid of adventure, they also love being able to customize their order and enjoy a satisfying, high-quality meal.
If you're a part of Generation Jones, you were born between 1955 and 1965, making you anywhere between 53 and 63 years old. About 44 million people make up a generation that's anxious to please, but is also willing to challenge the status quo. Considering their unique traits and life experiences, what can this mean for their eating habits? While there are similarities with Generation Y and X, they may not be as gastronomically adventurous, enjoying more traditional dishes.
The oldest generation that we commonly see is the 33 million strong baby boomer generation. They were born anywhere from 1946 and 1954, making them 64 to 72 years old. They're mission and service oriented, always willing to go the extra mile. As older guests, they have more traditional tastes and won't typically veer from routine ways of dining. Value is really important to these diners. They enjoy a substantial meal that's worth the price. Baby boomers are also more likely to restrict certain ingredients, such as red meat for health reasons. Based on your new knowledge about these generations, consider how their traits affect their food tastes. What happens as each group ages? How might their eating habits adapt to the changing environment?
The event's purpose will impact your menu suggestions. Is food central or secondary to their program? Ask what guests might want or expect at these events. Let me give you a few examples. If the purpose of the event is education, they might be looking for balanced meals and high-energy foods to help keep them focused and alert. If your event is a business meeting, the client might prioritize convenience and less frills and require something quick and easy. If the event focus is networking, then the menu should encourage socializing. Food can be a great conversation starter, so keep it fun and unique. Celebrations like weddings and galas, they're all about the food and drink.
You'll also need to learn about your group's personality so you can help your customer deliver the desired experience. Is the meeting formal or casual? Is it professional or fun? Is the goal to energize guests? If it's a celebration, is it lively and trendy or sophisticated and retro? You may need to dust off your thesaurus and think differently about how you talk about food to your customer. Your recommendations may vary depending on if your client is hosting a single event, a single day program, or a multi-day program. A single event only gives you one chance to impress, so make sure it's a good one. It's all about the menu. Expectations will be high, and the run of the show will be important to consider for weddings, fundraisers, and award shows. Single day events are all about balance. Examine your customers' menu choices and offer thoughtful feedback and logic to help enhance their experience. For example, consider scheduling high-energy breaks before a long general session or an on-own meal period. You could also try an indulgent break after a healthy lunch. Multi-day events are all about variety. With a multi-day event, it's even more important to closely examine your customers' menu choices.
The event flow and size is where we get into the nitty-gritty details. What meals are being provided? Are there any on your own? Are they light or full? Plated, buffet, or station style? How many guests? And will this vary event to event? Perhaps there's a big opening reception, but not everyone comes to breakfast, or people will skip out on lunch to take care of business. What are their most important events? Maybe it's an awards dinner that's crucial to their planning, and they might want to spend a little more of their budget. Or it's a networking event that you suggest a walk and dine to help encourage conversation.
Some customers may struggle to paint a clear picture of their needs, so you'll have to do your own research. Don't be afraid to be a bit of a cyberstalker. Look into what resources you can use to supplement your conversations with the customer. Look for Pinterest boards. Find out if there's a hashtag or Instagram account for their event. Look for photos from previous events. Research can help you understand customer expectations and build on past experiences. Don't think literally when looking at these sources, but instead use them for inspiration. This can allow Chef to adapt items in his wheelhouse instead of building from scratch.
A lesson I learned the hard way is not asking enough questions, especially when it comes to athletic groups. You really have to understand the dynamic of the attendees, because if you're not asking the right questions, you tend to not meet the needs. And for me, I didn't I didn't understand how much athletes ate, and I didn't understand the portions. So we ran out of proteins, we ran out of quite a bit, and you learn the hard way that it can cost you business, and it can cost you the customer coming back. The worst thing in the world for someone in our position is to run out of food.
For example, I had an event, and I let them choose a menu that probably wasn't right for the event, and I didn't ask the questions. I was a catering manager at the time, was very excited for the sale, and so they were willing to sign their contract, and so we're going to close on it, and it failed because the event wasn't. The menu didn't match the event.
Well, and it's hard for us sometimes to say no. You don't want to say no. You always want to say yes to the customer, even though in your gut you know it's not the right
thing. It's going to be tragic,
thing.
But they're going to be happy. Well, your meeting planner is going to be happy, but nobody else is.
Yeah. You always want to come to the table with options, and again, making you look like the expert, and making the meeting planner understand that this is the best thing for them. It's going to make them look good with their boss and with the attendees.
So that way you can tell them what you can accomplish, tell them what it could help them with. This is what I do know. I do know that I can elevate your event. I do know that your attendees will have a better experience.
Time to review. The big four. Who are your guests? What is the event purpose? What is the event setting? And what is the flow and size? Who? Know your guests. Demographics, age, gender, and segment. Generations, from Generation Z to baby boomers. Event purpose. Why are they here? Event setting. Single event, single day events, multi-day events. Event flow and size, the details. And research.